On a cold October night in 2003, a 19-year-old college student walked home and never made it to her front door. Her body was found the next morning, and for 20 long years, her killer walked free. No witnesses, no weapon, no motive, just one tiny clue left behind. Something you cannot see with the naked eye. Tonight, you will see how a microscopic piece of DNA finally cracked this case wide open and exposed a killer hiding in plain sight. This story begins in the small town of Maple Ridge, Ohio. Population just under 25,000. The kind of place where people left their doors unlocked and everyone knew their neighbors. In October 2003, Maple Ridge was getting ready for Halloween. Pumpkins on porches, kids planning costumes. Life felt safe and ordinary. But on the night of October 18th, that feeling of safety was destroyed. Her name was Emily Carter. She was 19 years old, a college freshman studying early childhood education. Friends described her as kind, shy, and always on time. Emily worked part-time at a local diner just a few blocks from her parents' house. That Saturday night, she ended her shift at 11 p.m., said goodbye to her co-workers, and headed out into the cool night air. It was a walk she had done 100 times before. Well-lit streets, quiet houses, only a 10-minute walk home. She never arrived. When Emily's parents woke up the next morning and saw her bedroom empty, they knew something was wrong. Emily always checked in. She did not stay out late. She did not disappear without a word. Her father called the diner. She left last night at 11, they said. She was walking home. Within hours, the Maple Ridge Police Department began a search. At 9:17 a.m., a jogger made a call that would change everything. Emily's body was found just off a walking path, less than half a mile from her home. She had been attacked. Her purse was gone. Her phone was missing. The quiet town of Maple Ridge was suddenly a crime scene. Detectives rushed to the scene. This was now a homicide investigation. They quickly noticed a few things. Emily's clothes were torn. There were signs of a struggle and defensive wounds on her hands and arms. She had fought hard, but there was no obvious murder weapon at the scene. No knife, no gun, no heavy object. The medical examiner later ruled that she died from blunt force trauma to the head, likely from a rock or some other object that was never found. Investigators searched the area for hours. They found shoe prints, tire tracks, and a few small items. A broken necklace chain, a cigarette butt, and a piece of fabric that did not match Emily's clothes. All of it was bagged and sent to the lab. Police started with the most obvious suspects. They spoke with her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Mark. He had been at his apartment that night, playing video games with friends. His alibi checked out. They interviewed her co-workers at the diner. Everyone said Emily left alone, as usual. No one followed her out. No loud arguments, nothing unusual. Her parents were devastated, but cooperative. There were no signs of abuse or family conflict. Detectives then turned to the wider circle. Did Emily have any enemies? Had she complained about anyone? A creepy customer from the diner? A classmate? A stranger who watched her walk home? Friends said no. Emily was careful. She did not go to parties often. She mostly went from school to work to home. Maple Ridge Police put everything they had into the case. Forensic teams processed evidence using the technology available in 2003, including early DNA testing. They got lucky. At least, that's what they thought. On some of Emily's clothing, the lab found a partial male DNA profile. The kind of profile you might get if someone grabbed her, or if there was a physical struggle. This could have been the key to everything, but there was a problem. The DNA was entered into CODIS, the national DNA database used in the United States. The result? No match. Whoever attacked Emily was not in the system. No prior felony convictions, no arrest that required a DNA sample. A complete ghost, at least in the world of law enforcement. Police released composite sketches made from witness tips. One person thought they saw a dark sedan parked near the path that night. Another said they heard a woman scream, but could not see anything. The sketches led nowhere. The tips dried up. Detectives re-interviewed almost everyone in Emily's life. They brought in local sex offenders for questioning and took DNA swabs from multiple men in town. Again and again, the lab test results came back. No match to the DNA found on the victim. The case file grew thicker. The leads grew colder. A year went by. Then two. Emily's case turned into what every detective dreads: a cold case. By 2010, 7 years after Emily's murder, the Maple Ridge Police Department had done almost everything they could with the tools they had. The original lead detective retired. New detectives took over. Each one hoped to be the one to finally solve it. They looked at similar cases in nearby towns and states. Any attacks on young women walking home alone? Any bodies found in wooded areas with similar injuries? Some cases looked similar, but again, nothing matched the DNA. Crime shows make it look easy. In real life, it is not. As time passed, people in Maple Ridge moved on. New families came in, old neighbors left. But for Emily's parents, time did not heal this wound. Every holiday, every birthday, every October, they remembered. They kept Emily's room almost exactly the same. Her posters on the wall, her college textbooks on the shelf, a framed photo of her on the nightstand. They had one hope left, that one day science would catch up. And that tiny piece of DNA would finally lead to a name. They just did not know how close that day actually was. Fast forward to 2023, almost 20 years after Emily's murder. Forensic science had changed a lot. DNA testing was now more advanced, more accurate and more powerful than ever before. Not only could labs work with much smaller and older samples, but a new tool had changed everything: genetic genealogy. Genetic genealogy combines DNA analysis with public family tree information. When people use consumer DNA services to learn about their ancestry, they sometimes choose to upload their raw DNA data to third-party sites to find relatives. Some of these people also choose to let law enforcement compare crime scene DNA to their profiles. This can help investigators find relatives of unknown suspects, even if the killer never spat in a tube. A distant cousin might have. That is where Emily's case came back to life. In early 2023, the Maple Ridge Police Department formed a new cold case unit. One of the first cases they picked up was Emily Carter. Detective Sarah Lawson, who had grown up in Maple Ridge and remembered seeing Emily's missing posters as a teenager, made it personal. She visited the evidence room and pulled out the old boxes, the clothing, the photos, the lab reports from 2003. Inside those files was the same partial male DNA profile that had been sitting in CODIS for 2 decades with no match. Lawson had an idea: send the DNA to a private lab that specialized in genetic genealogy. This time, the science was different. This time, the test would not just search a criminal database. It would search the family tree. The lab first confirmed that the DNA profile from Emily's clothing was still usable. After 20 years, the sample was degraded, but modern techniques could rebuild enough of the profile to work with. Once they had a strong profile, they uploaded it to a genealogy database used by law enforcement. They did not expect a direct hit. They hoped for a distant cousin, maybe a second or third cousin. Weeks went by, and then there it was. The system flagged a man living in another state as a probable second or third cousin to the unknown male who had left DNA on Emily's clothing. This man had never heard of Emily. He had no idea his DNA could help solve a murder. But he had done one simple thing. He had uploaded his consumer DNA test to a genealogy website, and he had checked the box allowing law enforcement use. From there, the genetic genealogists started building family trees. Working backward, they identified the cousin's grandparents. Then they mapped out all of the children and grandchildren of that couple. They looked at ages, locations, and gender. Who among these relatives was a male living near Maple Ridge and in the right age range in 2003? One name kept rising to the top. A man named Daniel Reeves. He had grown up in Maple Ridge. In 2003, he was 27 years old, working as a mechanic. He lived just 3 blocks from the diner where Emily worked. On paper, he fit. But that was not enough. Police needed more. They dug into his past. He had a few minor charges from his 20s, nothing major. A bar fight, a trespassing ticket, no felonies, nothing that would have put his DNA into CODIS. He had moved out of Maple Ridge years ago and was now living 2 states away, working at an auto shop, married with 2 kids. To his neighbours, he was just a quiet guy who fixed cars. To Detective Lawson, he had just become suspect number 1. Detectives needed a fresh DNA sample from Daniel Reeves to compare to the profile from 2003. They could not just knock on his door and demand it. They needed to be careful. Working with local police in his new city, they followed him, quietly. One afternoon, Reeves stopped at a gas station. He bought a soda, drank it as he filled his tank, and casually tossed the cup into the trash. He had no idea someone was watching. Minutes later, officers retrieved the cup and sent it to the lab. The question now was simple. Would Daniel Reeves' DNA match the unknown profile from Emily's clothing? When the results came back, no one in the cold case unit spoke for a moment. It was a match, a 1 in several trillion chance it was anyone else. After 20 years, the DNA left on Emily's clothes finally had a name: Daniel James Reeves. Detectives now had enough for an arrest warrant. Early one morning in late 2023, as Reeves left his home for work, officers surrounded him.
"Daniel Reeves, you are under arrest for the murder of Emily Carter," they said. Neighbors watched in shock as the quiet mechanic from down the street was handcuffed and placed in the back of a patrol car.
At first, Reeves denied everything. He claimed he did not remember Emily. He said he had never seen her before. But the DNA evidence was strong. The prosecutor decided to take the case to trial. In court, the prosecution laid out the story. They showed the jury photos of the crime scene. They explained how DNA works in simple terms, how it was collected from Emily's clothing in 2003, how it sat in CODIS for years, how modern genetic genealogy led them to Daniel Reeves. They presented the lab results. The DNA from Emily's clothing and the DNA from Reeves' discarded cup were the same. Experts explained the odds of a random match were astronomically low. Reeves' defense team tried to suggest the DNA could have gotten there some other way, that maybe he shook her hand at the diner or brushed past her in public. But there was no record of that. no witness who had ever seen them together. And the type of DNA found suggested a struggle, not casual contact. After days of testimony, the jury left to deliberate. They were back in just 4 hours. Daniel Reeves was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For the first time in 20 years, Emily's parents felt a small piece of justice. It would not bring their daughter back, but they finally knew who had done this. And they finally knew he could never hurt anyone else. The case of Emily Carter is tragic, but it also shows the power of science and the power of not giving up. For 2 decades, the key to solving her murder was sitting in an evidence box. Tiny skin cells on a piece of clothing just waiting for technology to catch up. Because detectives preserved the evidence, because her case was never truly forgotten, and because one distant relative decided to share their DNA, a killer who thought he got away with murder was finally exposed. There are thousands of cold cases just like Emily's in the United States alone. Every year, more of them are being solved through DNA and genetic genealogy. Behind every headline, there is a family waiting, a room left untouched, a calendar frozen on the day everything changed. If there is one thing this case proves, it is this. Sometimes justice is slow, but sometimes justice never forgets. Thank you for watching. If you want more real-life stories of cold cases solved by DNA, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next case.